Welcome back to month 3 of the Block of the Month at the Quilt Show. This is designed by Janet Stone. My name is Julie Cephalou, and I've got a couple of hints for you today. We're going to be working on the H and I blocks, and the H block is the house block, and I want to give you a couple of tips to build the roof unit of the house. So you're going to be doing a stitch and flip method to build that roof, and this is another one of those units that can become wonky on you if you're not really careful. So you have a couple of squares that you've drawn a diagonal line on it, and it's really important when you place these squares on the base rectangle that you match up these raw edges. And even if I match them up really well and pin them, a lot of times things shift as I stitch it. So a little trick is to put some glue on the scrap side, and I'm going to show you on this piece here. You can just put a little bit of glue stick, and this has to be the washable kind, in this corner, and then lay that in place, and then you can iron it down to dry the glue. And then when you stitch it, it's more likely to stay put where you want it. And then the other thing that you would want to do is when you're stitching on your diagonals, you want to stitch just next to that drawn line instead of right on top of it. And that's going to allow for space for the thread. So over here I've got my line already stitched. So when you fold that over, you need space for the thread and the fold over of fabric. So when you press that, it should meet the corner here. And then once you've got it stitched, you can trim away the excess seam allowance. And then the other thing that you can do for your block is you can build the house portion first. And for the grass rectangle, I cut mine a little bit larger so that if this part didn't become big enough, it's supposed to be measuring 7.5 by 8.5 inches. You can make up for that with a little bit larger of a piece down here, sew that on, and then trim it up to be the exact size that you want it. The rest of the house, it's all made so that it should fit together nicely and then measure correctly. But this is a nice little trick if you feel like you need to give yourself a little insurance room. Okay, moving on to the I block, we've got the Irish chain block. And I have mine here partially constructed. I still need to add the 2 links on either side. And the instructions tell you to cut your red and black squares out at 1.5 inches. And instead of cutting them out individually, I left my red and black fabric as a strip. And here you can see the strip that I've cut. And a lot of times when you're going to sew a square to another piece and you pinned it perfectly and you fed it through your machine, well, when it comes out the other side, a lot of times you'll see that it's off by just a little bit. So leaving your red and black fabric as a strip allows you to place your rectangles along that strip. Then you can go ahead and sew your 1/4 inch seam. Make sure you leave some space in between your rectangles. And then you're going to press this towards the red and black fabric. So set my seam and then flip it over. And press that fabric, and now you're going to cut it apart, and everything will line up nice and straight for you. So cut even with the rectangle all the way up. I'll do this side next. Then I can turn this around and cut the other side, and I've got a perfect piece to add to my block. Then you also need to put the other square on the other end of that rectangle. I've done that here on my longer pieces, and I've already pressed that, so I'm going to trim this up as well. Turn that around, and then this will be ready to add to my block to complete my Irish chain. Just like that. And then you've got your finished H and I blocks, and you're done for the month of March, and I will see you back in April.